If you want to acquire or accumulate or have real wealth, you have to own your own business. Is that true?
No. It's a myth that you have to own a business. It's useful to own a business, but if you can get along with people, you can easily get to the point of making a few $100,000s a year.
In a case where somebody doesn't know what their passion is, do you have any idea on how to find it?
Keep doing little things, and if it's not your passion, you'll lose interest in it very quickly. Ask your friends. Having a lot of money doesn't put you in this wealth mind state. Being rich and being wealthy are two different things. I have a Rolex Daytona. I hate that watch. I drive a Tesla. It's an expensive car, but none of that even remotely comes close to bringing happiness. I have never stressed about money more than after I made $50 million. Being a businessman or a business person can be lonely. It can be very stressful.
Was there ever a time where you didn't have money? Hi guys, welcome to the podcast. I feel like today's topic is going to be very interesting because I feel personally like I'm at this stage where I want to be like business savvy and just know like what level to take next in my business career. And then my guest today looks like he's going to give me all that answer. So if you want to upgrade your business or I don't know how to better plan your finances, I think this is going to be the episode for you and you should watch it till the end. Hi guys, so before we get into the episode, I have a little huge favor to ask of you. Over the years, I've learned that closed mouths don't get fed. So this is me opening my mouth with the hopes that you'll feed me to stupor. If you as little as enjoyed this show, please like, share, and subscribe. It gives me the extra motivation that I need to keep going because I really want to be doing this for a very, very long time. Okay, thank you. Let's get back to the show. Hi, Mr. Sanjay.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming on the podcast. I'm so excited. Oh my God, when I knew that you were going to be coming, I was so gassed because I had been like studying kind of your work, and it's always interesting when I find somebody who can talk about business or investing in a way where it's not so complex or like technical. As you would know, they don't teach us like stuff like this in school. So it's always nice when there's somebody on the internet that can break these things down. And so I'm excited about our conversation today. So thank you again for coming. Let's start with, have you always been a businessman?
So my father was a physics professor and everything was about education. And then he went through some hard times getting his PhD at university and wasn't able to teach afterwards for a variety of reasons. That's his own story. But he actually got into property development. So he went from a very education-focused mindset to a very entrepreneurial business mindset. And I watched that transition happen. And so for me, I never tried to go down the academic path or things. And I've had jobs at Fortune 500 companies, but I always knew I was going to be a businessman, that I was going to be an entrepreneur, just following his footsteps.
And so when did you start so did you go to college?
Yes.
So it was straight from college to business?
Kind of. So, okay, when did I start? I ran a lottery for students in my class in grade 8.
Okay.
Right? I ran a little library because I had a lot of comic books. So I would rent out comic books to my friends for 5 cents when I was growing up in my neighborhood. Yeah. So there was always the gears turning of what can I do to, and usually it wasn't to make money. It was usually to be around people and be social, and then money kind of came from that.
Okay.
My first real business came after I finished an MBA, and I started a home video delivery business. This is before the internet, before DVDs. Videos used to come on VHS tapes, right? They were about this big. And you would go to a store to rent them, right? And I thought it'd be so much better if they got delivered to your home. Nowadays, everything gets delivered to your home. So it's hard to imagine that there was a time when you couldn't get anything delivered to your home. I tried to create that company. It was a horrible failure. I raised $100,000 from friends of mine and classmates and lost it all within 6 months and said, that's it. I've made so many mistakes. I'm not going to try this again. And then, so I got a regular job. After a few years, the urge started building up, started another company. That was also a miserable failure. Then I quit. I said, I'm never doing this again. Took a few years, it built up. And this time I wanted to start a company. My parents said, you've tried this twice, it hasn't worked. Give it up already. But eventually I talked them into it. They supported me. They've always supported me. And the third one is the one that
Which one?
Audiobooks.com.
Oh yeah, that one that you ended up selling.
Yeah, that's the one
For
I ended up
how
selling.
much?
56 million.
Wow. Why did you choose to sell it? Because I always like imagine. I kind of have like this idea of building an app, right? But then I always have like this thought in my head about how almost every founder that I know ends up selling. So did you build it to sell? Did you?
No.
No?
No, I built it because I thought it was a cool business
Okay.
and I wanted to have a business. And it was making lots of money, and probably something like 3 million a year
Yeah.
of profit
Was
when I sold
Audible
it.
around at this time?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, Audible was our big competitor. They were massive here. We were this tiny little person stinging them all the time.
Yeah.
Our technology was better, our product was better, but they were massive.
Yeah.
And what happened was I started to get involved in venture capital.
Okay.
And people in San Francisco, and I was down there all the time. I was investing, putting money into angel companies. And I thought, how cool would it be to become a venture capitalist? I would like to do that. And one of the venture partners at another fund said, you can only do this if you sell your company. I was like, oh, well, okay, I guess. Because people always tried to buy my company. It was successful for quite a while.
Yeah.
But I would just say, no, I'm having fun. And then, so then when I had something else I wanted to do, that's when I okayed selling the company.
Yeah. Okay. So I feel like I only started becoming like a financial illiterate. This is embarrassing, but like last year or like 2 years ago. And so there are a lot of technical words that I don't know. And I'm assuming that the people watching it also don't know. So for people who don't know, I think I have an idea of what a venture capital is. For people who don't know, can you maybe briefly explain? Yeah.
Yeah, so venture capital is when you invest a little bit of money. It can be 100,000, well, sorry, a little bit, right? So
Yeah.
it's hard to do venture capital at $1,000 or $10,000. It kind of starts around $100,000.
Okay.
And goes into the billions. But it's somebody has a really risky idea. Like every business is risky,
Yeah.
right? But the kind of idea where if it fails, it's going to fail and we'll lose all our money. But if it succeeds, it's going to make billions of dollars. And so the people who invest in those companies know they're going to lose most of the time. They're going to lose 9 times out of 10, 19 times out of 20. So venture is another word for risk. It's risk capital.
Okay.
Right? So it's a very small group of people. They're very high profile inside tech company. The tech community, everybody is after the venture capitalists. And so in a sense, it's a kind of a sexy business, if that makes sense. So yeah, so it's those guys.
Okay. That makes sense. So in your experience over the years, should everybody, because every now and then I will hear that if you want to acquire or accumulate or have real wealth, you have to own your own business. First, is that true?
No,
No?
that's not true. No, if you're good at working in a company or good at running a company, you can make a ton of money working for a good company.
Yeah, but the taxes, I mean.
Oh, I pay a lot of taxes too. Less, you're right, I pay less taxes than somebody who's in a corporate job. But it's a myth that you have to own a business.
Okay.
Right? It's to be rich. Okay, can we get into a philosophical conversation
Yes.
about what it means to be rich? Okay. I have never stressed about money more than after I made $50 million.
Okay.
Right? Before, I didn't really worry. I would make 150,000 a year. I'd pay my taxes. I had my expenses. I spent less than I made. Things were okay. When I got 50 million, and then now I was starting to make investments and mistakes and decisions that were worth a lot more. And the idea of losing it was so damn scary that I was stressed out of my mind. It took me a few years, but I eventually became comfortable with that concept. But the idea, having a lot of money doesn't put you in this, what I would call wealth mind state.
Okay.
Being rich and being wealthy are two different things. Rich is just spending a lot of money.
Okay.
Wealthy is having a sense of, I don't care, right? It's like, I have my life, my family, I have money, but I've set everything up in a way that I can be a little bit disconnected from it. And that can come from money, but can also just come from your mental process, right? So I would say it's useful to own a business, but if you can get along with people and you can come up with ideas and work hard inside a company, you can easily get to the point of making a few $100,000 a year, and that amount of money is more than enough to put you into a great mindset. People ask me, okay, so I'm wearing an Apple Watch, right? I have a Rolex Daytona, right? I hate that watch. I drive a Tesla. It's an expensive car, but I used to drive a McLaren 720S, right, which is a $500,000 car. And I like that car. But 12-year-old boys would say, hey, mister, nice car, right? Who am I trying to impress, right? All of those fancy trappings, and you see the Instagram videos of people driving Lamborghinis or living in, $20 million mansions. None of that, even remotely, comes close to bringing happiness, right? And so, of course, it's nice to try. I'd like to find out for myself.
For myself.
Exactly, that doesn't bring happiness.
Yeah.
But being a businessman or a business person can be lonely, it can be very stressful, and sometimes it depends on your personality. Sometimes working in a company would be better. And in fact, the reason, so I've worked at a number of companies. I've been fired 4 times.
Wow.
Okay, so that gives you an idea of how well I get along with people. I get along much better if I'm the one saying do this and do this versus somebody telling me. And that is a personal failing of mine, which means I have to go start my own company. If you can get along with people, you're perfectly fine going to work for somebody else.
Yeah. What makes being an entrepreneur lonely though?
Who can you share your problems with, right? When you're in a job, there's always somebody else who's got a job kind of like yours. You talk about. But in my company, like right now, I'm running 2 restaurants. That's my main business. And I have excellent staff. I have 2 general managers that run those properties that do a fantastic job. And I can talk to them, but their problems aren't my problems. And when I talk to my wife will say, you should just yell at them and they'll do their jobs better. It's like, okay, honey, that's how you grew up, right? But that's not how it works nowadays. If I yell at people, they just quit. They just say, I'm going to go back and live with my parents. I'm happy. So there isn't anybody else that actually has my problems. I have some very good friends who I can talk to and they can kind of identify, but they also don't own restaurants. They own other types of businesses. So, and it's a complaint I've heard from, so I've invested in many companies over the years, probably 75 companies or so. And every CEO has said at some point, oh man, this is lonely. This is really tough. This is stressful. It helps if you have a partner, a business partner in the company. But ultimately, it's not any easier than any other life. In fact, it's quite a bit harder. The rewards are good. Right? It can be worth it. But I don't want to try and give people the idea that the only way to great wealth or to great happiness is starting your own business.
Yeah. Okay, to the issue of how money doesn't buy happiness, I feel like it doesn't buy, I feel like it, how do I word this? I feel like it buys extra happiness, right? So if you already aren't happy,
right, yes,
it won't make you happy.
Right.
But then if you're already happy, I mean, it won't hurt to have like extra money to just do nice things for yourself.
Yeah, and for other people too. I've heard it said that money doesn't buy happiness, it buys you options, right? So you have more choices, right? Now I can go to this many places on vacation, or now I can go out this many nights a week, or something. You still have to make the right decisions, but it gives you more options. Sometimes that can be stressful too, right? Having all those options.
Yeah, I mean, he can?
Yeah, it's because I sometimes think to myself, it's like, would have been nice, when I was growing up in Fredericton, New Brunswick, Eastern Canada, small town, right? I was the only brown kid in my high school. There was 3,000 kids. There were no black people. It was a unique kind of environment. But for birthday parties, we would always go to a bowling alley. It was the only thing that we had to do, right? There is some kind of comfort in knowing that my birthday's coming up, we're going to go to the bowling alley, right? I feel like having Italian food, that's the only Italian restaurant in town. That's where we're going to go. There's a comfort that comes from that. But it's nice to have more options too. But I'm just saying options can be stressful. There's a nice balance point. Right?
I think I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
Was there ever a time where you didn't have money? Did you come from money?
No. So my parents were both born in villages in India. Okay. My father basically won a lottery among his among his family to be the one kid who was allowed to go to high school and then university. He did very well for himself, eventually came to Canada to do his PhD, and he's always sent money back to his family. But even today, the family back in India, they've gotten better because 50 years have gone by in India as well. But yeah, that was very, very, there was no running water. There was, carrying buckets to and from the house. When I was 6 years old, I would go back to India and visit the village there. I was like, oh, okay, this is where I came from. And I was 6 years old. I didn't know anything. It was like, this is interesting, right? So I've never thought of myself as coming from money. But from the time I was 6 years old until the time I was 20 years old and left Fredericton, my father did extremely well. So I saw the rise from struggling to make a living as a student with a family, up to he owned a bunch of property and apartment buildings, and I got a car as a graduation present from university. So by then I was kind of, I started to be that person. But I'm trying very hard with my kids who've never seen any kind of difficulty, trying very hard to make sure that they have as normal a life as possible.
Yeah. What does normal mean, though?
Not getting a BMW for your 16th birthday.
Okay.
Right? I've seen parents who do that, and it's like, who are you trying to impress, right? Are you trying to impress your friends to say, look what we can do for our kids? You're not doing your kid any favors.
Yeah. Okay, interesting. So, my husband and I, we moved, we're new immigrants, kind of. Yeah, so we moved to Canada 6 months ago.
Okay.
As of the time where we're shooting this episode. Right, and if you had asked us, we had plans before we moved, when we get here, we're going to buy a house, blah, 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 blah. But now we're doing our research and we're hearing that buying a house might not necessarily be a great investment. So maybe buy a house if you want to buy a house because you like a house, but maybe don't buy it because you feel like you're tying your money down or your money is growing, so to say. Do you agree with that mindset?
I completely agree with what you just said. If you want to buy a house, if you want to customize it, so because if you rent, then a landlord's not going to let you do whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
But if you want to customize it and you really want to make it your own space, that's fantastic. That's a great use of money. You're no worse off than by renting, right? But over the years, so there's this, there's lots of people who've made their fortunes in real estate.
Yeah.
Right? There's lots of people who've lost fortunes in real estate, but you don't hear from them. They don't come on podcasts, right? All the people who bought property in Ottawa or Montreal 30, 40 years ago, they all lost money. It's only if you bought in Vancouver or Toronto that you made a lot of money. So you don't know what the future market is going to be. So if you want to live in Mississauga and you want to own a home in Mississauga, great. Maybe it'll go up, maybe it'll go down. You don't know, but at least you'll have a home.
Yeah.
But if you want the flexibility of being able to just pick up and move at some point, then renting is better. And there is no, economically, they're the same.
That is renting and owning a home?
Yeah. I mean, now, buying property as an investment can be useful because of leverage. So what happens is you have a certain amount of money. You can put a down payment on a house, so just 10% of the value of the house. The bank can give you a loan to help you buy the rest of the property. And then when the property goes up, you only put 10% of the money in. So if, let's say you put in $10,000, you got a $100,000 property goes up to $200,000, right? Now you now have $110,000. You give the bank back the $90,000, and so you've made from $10,000 to $110,000, and that's fantastic, right? But the bank has to give you $90,000.
You have to give the bank.
No, so for me to buy the property, if I want to buy a condo, the bank has to like me enough, trust me enough, to give me that money, to give me the loan.
Yeah.
That is hard, right? My company was making $3 million a year of cash, right? And Royal Bank of Canada would not give me a mortgage to buy the house that I live in now, right? It was a $3 million house. They would not give me a mortgage. I had to go to a secondary lender because they said, fine, you've made this amount of money for 2 years, but until you've made it for 5 years, we don't trust that you can actually afford to buy this house. Especially in Canada, it's very hard to qualify for bank loans and mortgages. So I don't think, investing in real estate is a realistic path for most Canadians to follow. Certainly for most immigrants, credit, I mean, you must have found this already moving here. Credit is an impossible thing to build up as a new immigrant.
Yeah.
Right? I lived in the United States for 2 years, so I had the opportunity to be an immigrant to America, just temporarily after I was a student there. And I couldn't get a credit card, couldn't get a car, couldn't get a mortgage. It was like, the world is very friendly to people who've got great credit.
Yeah. I mean, we're currently at the stage where we're building our credit. Yeah. So if I came to you now and I said, advise me, right? I have 200K or like 150K. Do I put it down for a mortgage or do I buy a business?
Okay. So, I mean, the answer is always, to something like that, is always, it depends, right? If there's a business that you like and you think you'll enjoy running, right, then put it into a business, I would say. If the business you like is real estate, then you put it into real estate. So I have friends who say, Sanjay, I don't understand why you don't have more property. It's because I hate managing property. I don't, there's nothing about looking at a building or a half-built house that gives me like a warm feeling. It just looks like stress, because I grew up in a family where my father was doing that stuff all the time. Even my father says, son, I have all this property, you can develop it for me. Why won't you go into the family business? I said, Dad, because you had me carrying dishwashers upstairs and digging out ditches and carrying rocks from one place to another when I was 15 years old. So I learned to hate real estate. So I don't want to do it. You know what I like? I like technology. I like going out to clubs and partying. I like spreadsheets. Believe it or not, I love looking at spreadsheets, right? It gives me like a nice flow feeling of I'm doing something useful. So I know it's crazy, but so I try and get involved in businesses that are things I like, because that way, if the business doesn't work out, well, at least you're doing something that you enjoy doing, right? And you're going to be much more successful at something you enjoy doing. So I would say if you've got $150,000, $200,000 and you're thinking, what should I do with this? Find something that's a business, whether it's real estate or something else, that gives you a little bit of a tingle.
Okay.
Right?
Okay, so that means even if I will buy a house, don't buy the house and live in it. So maybe buy it and rent it out, or use it for like a commercial purpose, no? Yes?
Yeah, absolutely.
Or live in it.
No, or live in it, right?
Yeah.
But if you're living in it, don't think of it as an investment, right?
Yeah.
Because someday, if you move out and sell it, well, you still have to live somewhere, right? So it's not money you can spend, right? If you buy it as an investment property and the bank gives you the loan and you can rent it out and have the tenant pay the mortgage off, then that's a great way over a long period of time of doing well financially.
Yeah.
Right? It's just not a thing I enjoy, so it's hard for me to comment on it.
Okay. So one thing the internet does is it makes it look like everybody on the internet or every young person is successful and they have their lives figured out. But like in reality, it may be speaking to people that in your proximity, you realize that that's not really the case. And I feel like, in my opinion, there are a lot of young people who want to build wealth for themselves, who want to be better for themselves, but they maybe don't have, or feel like they don't have like the right amount of capital to begin, So what would be your advice to a young person on how to start building wealth?
So the most successful model I've seen is you go out, you work for somebody else, or you read books, or you watch videos on the internet. You learn how to do something. Okay, then go work for somebody, learning how to do that thing better. Okay. Eventually, start a business where you teach people how to do that thing. Okay, so you become a consultant, a service provider. Okay, so you can make a decent amount of money doing that, but you're never going to make a lot of money doing that. But you can make more than you spend, and so that as you're doing this consulting business, say I'm going to go watch a bunch of videos on how to do queries in ChatGPT for AI.
Yeah.
So I'm going to learn about AI. And then I'm going to put up an ad that says, hey, do you want to learn about AI? I'll teach you. Here's a course I'm giving on it. Or hire me for $100 an hour and I'll come to your business and I'll teach you how to do AI. This is actually, this is a great example right now of something you can do. Then, so you do that for a while, you make $100 an hour, spend less and start building up a little pot of money, right? So until you have, I don't know, $40,000, $50,000, $100,000, where then you can start a business doing something like this. Now you write some software programs that can help people do their AI tasks. And then you try and sell that software program to lots of different people, right? Or you buy a company that could use your expertise in AI, but they don't know how to do it themselves. So they sell you their business for cheap. You come in, put in your AI expertise on top of it, and all of a sudden, now you make that business worth much, much more, right? So whatever you're good at, like, for example, you're good at interviewing people, right? You have a podcast, you're good at social media marketing. Almost any business can improve with that kind of skill set. So if you find some business that's out there that isn't on the internet, right? Let's say somebody's making a really nice nail polish. I love your nails.
Thank you.
Okay? So somebody's got a really nice nail polish, but you heard about it from a friend who heard about it from a friend, and they're not on Instagram, they're not on YouTube. You would say, how about I become partners with you, or I buy your business, and I will add the social media marketing on top of it, and all of a sudden you'll be much more successful, right? That's partner with somebody or buy their business and apply your expertise to that business. Okay. So when we did audiobooks, the thing that saved our business is I learned how to use Google for advertising. Right? This is back, nowadays you do a Google search and you see sponsored ad, right? Back in 2003 when we started that business, that wasn't a thing. It was just starting. Nobody knew how to do it. I read a bunch of articles on the internet. I practiced with it myself. I figured out how to do it. And being ahead of everyone else in that game enabled that company to succeed. And that expertise, that expertise then, like AI now, it's not that you're going to be ahead for a year or 2 years. It takes forever for the world to catch up to things. Even today, I guarantee I could go into Google AdWords and outperform 90% of the consultants out there because I learned how to do it myself, right? Like you've built up your social media knowledge, awareness yourself. You've got an expertise that it might seem like, oh my God, everybody on Instagram knows how to do this stuff. No, there's a very, very small percentage of people who know how to do this stuff. So you'll be able to play that knowledge into things for a long time. So any of your viewers, listeners out there who are developing expertise in something, they'll be able to leverage that to create wealth, to create expertise that they can sell to people or use in their own businesses for a long time. And initially, it feels really hard. You read an article about how large language models work in AI. And it's just like, it's all foreign words. You don't understand any of these words. Then you read another one, then you read another one, then you read another one, then you watch a video, then you talk to somebody, then you read another one. And pretty soon it's like, oh, this stuff's not as hard as I thought it was. It's just, it seems scary. All of these new fields seem scary until you kind of get into them. So I started social media myself a year ago, okay? I had 300 followers on Instagram. And somebody came up to me and said, I would like to do a video giving a tour of your house. And I said, that's the dumbest thing I ever heard of. I'm not gonna do it. My wife is gonna kick me out of the house. And he eventually convinced me to do it, showed me the video. I said, that is not going on these days. It's too private. I don't want people to see it. And eventually talked me into it. We edited out some parts I really didn't like, put it up on the internet. It got like, I don't know, 1.5 million views, okay? And I was like, I'd never had more than 300 views on anything up to that point. And all of a sudden, all these followers started coming in, and I still didn't really understand social media. And then video after video, this guy taught me a ton about how to do this. And now it doesn't seem so scary, right? A year later. Right? So it's been an interesting ride. Right?
Okay. So learn something, teach it to other people, make money from it, and then what?
And then eventually build up some cash reserves that you can then use to actually buy a business or start a business, right? Plus, okay, so I give people 3 pieces of advice who ask me, how can I make money fast? Right?
Yeah.
First, I say you're asking the wrong question. You can say how to make money, but if you add the word fast in there, it destroys everything.
Yeah.
So how do you make money? Decide what you want to do. That's not passion. It's more like just something that interests you, right?
Okay.
So find something that interests you so you know what you want to do. Surround yourself with great people.
Okay.
So just go out. I've met you now. We're now going to be friends.
Yeah.
Go out and meet lots of interesting people so that when you start a business, when you have an idea, you have people to talk to about it. You have people who'll come work with you on it. That's 2. And number 3 is don't be in a hurry.
Yeah.
Right? Audiobooks.com took me 13 years to take from, we almost went out of business 3 times in the first year.
Wow.
13 years later, sold it. And I'm quite happy with that.
Yeah.
Right? It could have taken 20 years. I wasn't trying to make money fast, but I surrounded myself with great people. And those people that I hired back then have come back to work with me at different companies at different times. The absolute best compliment I can have is when somebody leaves one of my companies to go work somewhere else, and then 2 years later they come back. Yeah, I love that. That's such a good feeling.
Yeah. We have one of those, I think, because we moved from Nigeria and we have a business there, and so the guy who's currently the manager, he used to work with us, and then he went somewhere else, and now he's back. So he's like currently heading the company and stuff.
No better compliment. What a great compliment that they know you and want to work with you. Right? That's fantastic.
So like of the 3 advice now, I think 2 now a lot of people struggle with. And when they ask me, it's like, I don't know, because I feel like it's natural for me. I'm not scared of going out and meeting people. But I find that some people really struggle with, it's like, everybody says surround yourself with great people, but how do you find these people if you don't even know how to make friends? And I don't have the advice for that because I feel like I was born with, I don't know if I was born with it, but I feel like I was born with it.
Yeah. I mean, you've got a very natural, charismatic personality,
Thank
right?
you.
So people will be attracted to that.
Yeah.
I was not born with it.
Yeah.
For me, it was always a struggle having friends. I gradually figured out that some of it just comes from confidence, right? But here's what I teach my kids, okay? And this is the number 1 secret. This is studies show this everywhere. It'll make sense when I tell you, okay? The number 1 way to get people to like you is to like them. So if you're the kind of kid or adult who goes around saying, hey, Mory, hi, Femi, hey guys, how you doing, right? So it looks like you're interested in them and and you're friendly towards them, they will like you automatically, right? And then if you want to make a tight friend circle, the way I did it was by organizing things. So I'd say, hey, we're going to have a movie night. Hey, I'm inviting people over to play a board game. Hey, let's all go out this night for dinner. And most people aren't organizers. They like being invited to things. And so you're a person who seems very friendly, outgoing. You're always saying hi. You invite them out to something. They come out. That process for me started in my 30s.
Okay.
And so then you're able to layer it on. And then, of course, the more friends you have, the more people want to be your friend. And then the problem is, how do you cut them back down to the ones that you actually want to hang out with?
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, that was funny. Because now it's like you're a user. Sorry. Okay, so at what age did you make your first million?
Let's see here. It was 2009, so 44.
44. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's a little comforting.
Yeah.
That's comforting.
Yeah, I mean, it was I had a really nice salary when I was in my 30s, but it was never going to turn into massive wealth. But the thing is, so my second company made me bankrupt, so I was at nothing. Wow. My parents were very supportive, but I didn't want to go live with them in that small town in New Brunswick. I was living in a student dormitory at the University of Toronto, right? And I was trying to figure out if I could afford to have touch tone service on my phone. It was an extra $1 a month. I couldn't afford $1 a month to get my service. But then I got a great sales job for Cisco. And here's the amazing thing. It's when you have nothing, right, getting that, $10,000 a month check feels like, I mean, that's more money than God. Like that's so much money.
Yeah.
I look at all these things I can spend it on, right? So the trick is to somehow maintain that mental mindset of having nothing,
Yeah.
so that everything that comes in feels like something. The more things you buy, the more things you build up, family, houses, all of those they're great to have, but they have to be paid for with money and with your time.
Yeah.
So be careful what you collect.
Yeah. So when you make the money, yeah, how do you then keep the money and then grow the money? Because I feel like it's very easy for the money to come and then go just like it came. So how do you keep it and grow it?
So there's a few lessons here. One of them is that the only area in which you're going to make more money than everybody else, okay, is in something you're interested in and in your own business, okay? So for me, I run restaurants, okay? Maybe if I get really good at it, I'll be able to make more money than other people who run restaurants or other people who do something else, because I'm good at running restaurants and I like running them, okay? But if I invest in crypto or stocks, right, I'm not a professional investor, right? The people who are good at investing in stocks, that's like such a small percentage of the population. But everybody, it's so easy to invest in a stock. Everybody thinks, oh, Nvidia is going to go up, Apple's going to go up, I'm going to sell Tesla because Tesla has gone up too much already. And then they'll go out there and they will lose their money. Guaranteed, they will lose their money. If you're going to invest in something that isn't your business, that isn't the thing you're good at, then what you need to do is invest in the whole business, which is to say the entire stock market is a great investment. You should put your money in something called the S&P 500 index, right? That will rise at 8% a year, and over a long period of time, it'll rise at that rate forever, right? Crypto, I give this advice all the time, and crypto people keep calling me and saying, crypto's up, double the S&P 500 this year. It's like, yeah, okay, that's not the game I'm playing. I'm not trying to make the most money next year. I'm trying to make sure that over a long period of time, I do well, right? So invest in the things that have done well over a long period of time, right? Most people who buy into crypto lose their money.
Yeah.
Right? But the people who make money are on their social media going, look at how much money I made on crypto, right? So you just hear disproportionately from the people who've done well. Investing in the broad stock market, that's the way to go. But that's just where to put your extra money, right? If you have a business, your money should always go back into that business, right? Because that's the place where you'll make the highest returns.
So what do you mean go back into the business? Like invest back in your own business.
Right, invest back in your own business. There are lots of times with audiobooks that when we started having positive cash flow, so the first year we made $1 million, the question was, what do we do with that $1 million? I could take it out and put it in the stock market, right, and make 8%. But if I put it into my own company, most companies make 20 to 25% on the capital that goes into them.
Okay.
So if you have a company that's successful, then you take that $1 million, you put it back into the company. Now, there's no sense taking too much risk. How about you take half of it, put it back in the company, half of it you take it out and save it or spend it. But the best place to put excess capital, if you're thinking, should I invest in my business or should I be safe? Usually you're better off investing in your business. And also, it depends how risky is that business. Only you know how risky your business is, right?
Yeah. How safe is the S&P 500?
Over a 10-year period, I think maybe twice in the last 100 years, it hasn't risen at 8%.
Oh.
Right? So I would call that very safe.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing, pure safety will give you 3% return, right? So it'll go up and down, right? In any given year, you don't know if it's going up and down. But over a long period of time, it'll always go up.
So it's like you're there for the long game.
Yeah.
Interesting. So if I wanted to buy a business now, because again, I've been thinking about, it's like an option in our home where my husband and I, we just always discuss our options. Do I need to have a lot of money?
You need to have a lot of risk tolerance, right? You need to have enough money. Most businesses don't fail because they're bad businesses. They fail because they run out of cash.
Okay.
Right? So you just need to have more cash than you think you need, probably twice as much as you think you need. You think this business is going to take 100,000 and then it'll start making money, make sure you have 200,000 before you start. But then I'll give you a secret that I've kind of known for a while, but I haven't known how to say it properly, which is there's this myth in business that the smart business people you just have to make more good decisions than bad decisions, right? So if you have to decide, is my main color of nail polish going to be green or red, right? That you have to be right 60% of the time and wrong 40% of the time, because the next thing you have to decide is how long are they going to be, or how much are they going to cost, or something like that.
Yeah.
And that's not it. Roger Federer tells this great story in tennis, right? Of what percentage of he's won 80% of his matches in his whole lifetime, okay? What percentages of his points has he won? And it's 52%, right? It's that these decisions happen over and over again. On any given one, you could be wrong, you could be right? But just when you make the right decisions, they add up over time. So in business, it's much worse than tennis. In business, we try things all the time.
Yeah.
95% of the time, okay, we're going to be wrong. The trick in business is that when you make a mistake, try to make cheap mistakes and throw them away, okay? And then every once in a while, you'll find something that really works, okay? One time out of 20, something that really works. And then you keep that and you pour money into it because it works. And that one will grow and grow. And all those 19 mistakes will just keep getting thrown aside. So I'll give you an example. Right now, I have a popular club downtown, Runway 06, and we hire professional dancers. We have a stage right in the middle of the club. We hire professional go-go dancers to get up there and dance. Right? It costs us about $1,000 a night for the professional dancers. One night, 3 girls came up and said, hey, the dancers were taking a break. Can we go dance on the stage? I don't know. Okay, fine. One of the security guards, keep an eye on these 3, make sure they don't slip and fall. Let them go up there and dance for a little while. They went up. 3 more girls came and said, can we go up and dance there? I was like, okay, fine. I think, capacity looks like we should probably go. Anyway, I'll skip ahead here. Now we let our customers dance on the stage and don't pay the professional dancers at all. It's the same energy. Our guests can dance perfectly well. Everybody likes seeing them and cheering. And there's a huge lineup of people who want to get up on there.
Oh, wow.
So now more energy, better. People come because they can go dance on the stage. And we saved ourselves $1,000.
Yeah.
But, like another thing, we hand out hats, right? Like it's named after an airport, so we hand out captain's hats. And people love those hats. But before we got the hats, we tried sunglasses, right? People would throw them in the garbage. We tried fans that you can fan yourself. They would constantly break. It wasn't until we got to the hats that somebody said, oh my God, these are amazing. They take pictures of themselves and they send it to all their friends, and everybody comes in and asks for the hats. You keep making mistakes, making mistakes. Just throw them away. But when you find something that works, you keep it and then you build on top of it. Like friends.
Yeah, like friends. Okay, so I think another concern, or not really a concern of mine, it's just I've heard, and don't quote me because I can't even remember where I heard it, about how the lifespan of a restaurant can be short.
It can.
It can?
Yes.
So how do you deal with that? How long have you been in the restaurant business?
So my first place, Coffee Oyster Champagne on King Street West, has been around for 6 years.
Okay.
And now COVID messes everything up. So who the hell knows? So has it been 4 years? Has it been 6 years? And Runway 06 used to be called Marked. It's now has been around for 4 years.
Okay.
They're both in the early days. So there's this story that nightclubs rise and fall in 3 years. Okay? There's a story that restaurants rise and fall in 9 to 10 years. Okay? I don't believe those stories, right? That if you create something that's special, it'll last forever, right? The special restaurants in Toronto don't come and go. They become icons of the city, and they stay. But you have to be there every night and say, what can I do to make this place better? What can I It's like, I don't know, maybe that painting should be changed. Maybe what we say at the front should change. Maybe we need to switch up the menu a little bit. You can't stay the same.
Yeah.
Right? If you stay the same, then you'll be dead very quickly. But just keep in touch with the times, and then you become iconic, right? Then you can last 20, 30, 40 years and do perfectly fine. But so I don't know. Maybe, maybe we'll talk again in 5 years' time, and I'll say, Mory, oh my God, you were right back then. I shouldn't have kept doing this. It was a horrible idea.
Or you see, I told you.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. So now this is another topic that I find interesting, right? Because actually a few of my favorite millionaires are investing in psychedelics. And I know that you have a foundation that that funds psychedelic researches to help with things like anorexia and stuff like that. So is psychedelic weed?
Is psychedelics, sorry.
Are they weed? Is it weed?
Is it weed?
Is it the same thing as weed?
Oh, it's weed. Yes, sorry, yes, weed.
Marijuana.
Yeah, marijuana. Okay, so the term psychedelic refers to 4 drugs.
Okay.
And it's ibogaine, LSD, psilocybin, and mescaline. Those are the 4 classic psychedelics. Okay. Now, because psychedelics have become popular, right? Anything that affects your mind now, they're calling a psychedelic, or saying psychedelic effects. So weed, marijuana, absolutely has a lot of those effects. Okay. But it's not truly a psychedelic. But there's lots of people experimenting with marijuana and how it can positively affect your mental state and how it can help you make changes in your life. They're doing the same thing with MDMA, which is a party drug. It's definitely not a psychedelic, but it has effects of making you want to talk about yourself and open up about your problems. That's very useful in a therapeutic conversation. So all of these drugs, so I started this process 6 or 7 years ago because my daughter has anorexia, and I was hoping it would help treat her, and they did help her considerably. But I took the psychedelics myself to be with her on her journey, so I could see what she was experiencing, and they helped me. I didn't think I had any problems. It turns out I had a lot of problems, and pent up emotional issues from my childhood that I was able to address by taking the psychedelics, and then more regular therapy. But the psychedelics opened me up. I mean, more. It's like I meditate, I do yoga, I journal, I go on hikes. I'm a nicer person. I don't get angry as much anymore.
Just by taking psychedelics?
I'm saying that psychedelics started the process, right? And all of those things help continue the process, but I wouldn't have been open to them. Like 10 years ago, I tried to meditate for the first time. Close my eyes. It's like, how has it been? It's been 2 seconds. Okay, close my eyes. Trying this. I could not close my eyes for 2 minutes. It was impossible. Now, favorite part of my day is lying cross-legged and just sitting there. And it's not about emptying my mind. It's just taking a moment for myself. Right. But it's not that psychedelics made me realize that there's 2 parts to my mind. There's the thoughts that are bubbling up, and then there's the person who's watching the thoughts. Right. And those thoughts that are bubbling up, and I can be a very judgy person. I'll walk in to a room and I'll say, why is she wearing that? Okay, why did he say that thing? It's like, oh, did I leave the oven on back at home? These thoughts, those aren't you. You are the person who hears those thoughts and says, I'm going to ignore this one, I better drive home and turn off my oven, right? So once you realize that the thoughts aren't you, then they don't control you anymore, right? That was the thing that psychedelics did for me, is realizing that my thoughts weren't me. They're just thoughts, they're just random. Your brain is bubbling up these things all the time, and you can ignore them. So
when you take these drugs, are you still aware of what's going on, or you're in a state of...
Sometimes. Sometimes it's like, okay, the walls are moving, right? But I know I'm here, right? I know I'm with you. I know I'm talking, right? But other parts of what's going on are very strange, okay? And then there's times when your eyes are closed and you're just in a different world. And it's more like, imagine dreaming, right? It's like dreaming, but it's much more real, and you'll remember everything when you wake up. So you come back and you say, oh, I was on a spaceship and I was in jail and Darth Vader came out and said that you're the king. What should I do? It's like, what does this all mean? It means something. It means something.
Yeah.
Right? It means something. And when you figure it out, talking to a therapist, it's like, oh, that means that, I don't know. In my case, I'll tell you the actual story. I was on a starship. I was in jail, and I escaped, and I ran up to the top, and I saw all the officers with their guns, right? And I stopped, and it's like, oh no, I've been caught again. And they all turned to me and said, hello, Commander, where are we going today? And I realized I was in a prison of my own mind, but I'm actually in charge the whole time. That's what it meant, is that you think you have all these restrictions in your life and things you can't do, but you're the one who put those restrictions there, right? So you can change them anytime you want. So,
or maybe the society put it there.
Usually it's because you accepted it, right? So, no, that's not 100% true, right? You might be in an actual jail, but a lot of times, right? Like I think, oh, I can't go out with my buddies tonight because my wife won't let me. Well, that's stupid, okay? Your wife's not the problem. You're the one who decided to get married, right? You're the one who decided to have friends who want to go out all the time. You're the one making these decisions. There's consequences. If you want to go out, maybe you should have a different wife. But don't ever think that it wasn't you making those decisions.
So who should take these drugs?
Everybody. Well, okay, not everybody. People who have ego disorders, narcissists, maybe borderline personality disorders, psychedelics can make it worse.
Okay.
If you've got certain medical conditions, seizures, perhaps schizophrenia, there's evidence that those can be compounded. But you know, there's a common misconception that if you're on antidepressants, you can't take psychedelics.
You can't.
Right.
Can you or can't you?
You can take certain psychedelics, but not other ones. Other ones won't have any effect. But ketamine, for example, is a legal psychedelic that lots of people use to treat depression, and you can take it even if you are on Prozac or another antidepressant. So you just have to do your research, talk to a doctor, and the doctors are becoming more and more knowledgeable about this. But I think, you know, like 90% of the population could benefit from psychedelics with therapy.
Yeah, but then it has to be prescribed, yeah? Because they don't sell
well,
like
no,
stuff.
It's worse than that. It's pretty much, they're almost all illegal.
Oh, wow.
So
even in Canada?
Even in Canada. So there's a very small group of them that are legal. Cannabis is legal.
So cannabis is different from marijuana?
No, it's the same.
Okay.
Cannabis, weed, grass, marijuana, so many words for the same thing. So many of these drugs are illegal. They're still easy to find. I mean, you can find mushrooms. So mushrooms are called psilocybin is the technical term. But you can buy mushrooms. You can find mushroom stores in downtown Toronto. They keep getting shut down and opening up again and shut down. It's just like marijuana used to be 20 years ago.
Yeah. Now we have like marijuana stores almost at every corner. That was kind of like a culture shock for me when we first moved here, because marijuana, I think marijuana is illegal. It's illegal in Nigeria, and then when we came, it's like in every corner. It's like in your face, and I was like, what is going on? But remember, I feel like my husband needs to take psychedelics. I keep telling him he needs to try it. There's something in him that he's like more reserved, on the reserved side, but I feel like there's more to him. But there's some sort of restriction. He'll say, oh no, I'm okay, I'm fine. But I feel like he needs to try it. So hopefully one day we can conquer that quest.
Well, I mean, have you tried psychedelics?
No.
Oh, okay.
Are we adding weed to?
I would not use weed as a psychedelic.
Okay.
Because it's in very, very specific conditions that it affects your mind the right way, right? Having a high dose of mushrooms would be the way to go. Okay. But you need to do that with a trained professional, because if you take that high a dose of mushrooms without being told what's about to happen, you'll freak out. It's like, oh my God, what's happening? The world is melting. I'm dying. I don't know what's happening, right? But if somebody prepares you properly and you take it, then it'll feel magical. Oh my gosh, I'm floating through the universe. This is amazing. And then all these insights come to you, and then you wake up and you talk to the therapist about it. It's a beautiful process, and it's 100% safe.
Yeah.
Okay? But you have to do it with somebody who knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
Otherwise, even if you do it alone and you freak out, it's still safe. You're still physically safe.
Yeah.
But you'll feel terrified.
Yeah.
Right? So I highly recommend it. Right? And if you ever want a recommendation on somebody who can do this, feel free to contact me.
I will. I will send you that email.
Yeah.
I will send you that email, and then we will look into it. Okay. So I wanted to touch base quickly. You were divorced?
Yes. Yeah. I was married for 6 years.
Yeah. Why? Why did it end?
Why did it end? We didn't know how to communicate well. I think she got married, I don't know, her father was an alcoholic. She was escaping a bad home situation. I had my own problems. I have bipolar disorder. So I was up at times, and it's up in bipolar when you're manic that you're dangerous. I was spending too much money. I was making bad decisions. Then I get depressed and not want to get out of bed for months at a time. So I was a horrible person to live with, right? She was emotionally very volatile. We just fought all the time, like almost every day. And so both of our lives got a lot better when we separated. We had a daughter from that marriage. Who was, I think, 3 years old when we got divorced. She's 29 now. She's a psychiatrist, and she works in the area of with children's care, adolescent psychiatry, but also very familiar with psychedelics. So,
Okay. Yeah. And then you remarried?
Yeah, I remarried 10 years later. I've been married now for coming up on 18 years, and fantastic. No end in sight on that one.
Yeah, nice. Were you scared though to remarry?
Sorry?
Were you scared?
Oddly enough, no.
No?
What happened was I had met a number of people during the 10 years when I was after the divorce, and my wife was the first one of those people I met where I met her and said, I want to have kids with you. Or I could imagine having kids with you.
Yeah.
That was it. There was no other decision to be made. It was like, okay, now I'm ready.
Oh, interesting. So how do you develop grit as an entrepreneur?
Wow, okay. I have difficulty with that question because that book, Grit, came out, right? And she talks about how that's the defining characteristic of an entrepreneur, of somebody who's going to be successful in business. But my own experience has been that I quit all the time. Right? When I say 20 things you try, 19 you'll fail. So 19 things I quit, fail. Right? But I keep trying to just gradually move towards the light a little bit. Like, what's my objective? I want to have a good life. So I don't give up on life because I had a few failures. I don't give up on my company the first time something goes wrong. But eventually you have to say, okay, enough is enough. This was a bad idea. I'm going to stop doing it. I'm going to get divorced, right? I'm going to shut this company down. I'm going to go bankrupt. These things happen, and they're sometimes the best decisions you can make in that circumstance is just to walk away. But you have to be the kind of person who takes that decision seriously.
Yeah.
Right? And you don't just quit at the first sign of failure. And I would say, I don't know if this is the right answer to the question, but having good people to talk to and bounce ideas off of has often been the deciding, what's made my decisions best. It's what's given me grit. It's when somebody says, no, Sanjay, you should keep going with this. Or, no, Sanjay, I've seen you trying with this for a while. It's time to give up. Yeah. Right? So, again, it's back to who do you surround yourself with?
Interesting. So let's go a little bit back to the psychedelics now. Is there a time where it's going to be big? Because I'm currently investing in some, like I have some like individual psychedelic stocks that I'm investing in. Should I keep doing that?
The most money I've ever lost at one time was in a psychedelic stock. $7 million.
Subhanallah.
Right? Yeah. So it will be big someday.
It will.
Right? I hope you're in one of the ones that's going to succeed.
Oh my God, how do I know which one?
You don't. And this is the problem. This is why going back to venture capital, 9 of them will fail.
Yeah.
One will succeed, and it will succeed very big. So I've invested in probably a dozen psychedelic companies. I think 8 of them have already gone out of business.
Yeah.
And one of them just called me and said that they want to buy my shares back and I'm going to make a bunch of money. So that worked.
Yeah.
Right? I think overall I'll probably...
Did they buy it? Did you?
We're doing the paperwork now.
Okay.
So, yeah. So hopefully it works out for you. It will be big someday.
It will?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I feel like if one gets big, then the other one then will start getting big.
Yeah.
So even if the one that I'm investing in currently doesn't get big, I hope that it's part of the other ones that are still maybe around when it gets big. But like, what is the major challenge that you face as a businessman? The most difficult thing where it's like, oh, I wish I could just get this thing out of my way.
So, when my business partner and I had a falling out 8 months ago.
That's recent.
Yeah, no, it was very recent.
Yeah.
I found out he was doing some things I wasn't happy with,
Okay.
and so he gave me he got out of the company. I got all the shares back of the two restaurants.
Wow. It was that bad? He just gave it to you?
In return for me not filing criminal charges. Right? So I got the company, and I really, really like Coffee Oyster Champagne. It's my speakeasy bar downtown. It was my idea. I put in all the capital, everything. I love that place, and it's busy all the time.
Yeah.
The second place marked restaurant was his, and I still financed it, the whole thing. But it's a restaurant. I don't know. I didn't want to own a restaurant. I had no interest in restaurants. I wanted to have a nightclub. So here's the difficult part is, should I sell it or should I try and run it? I'm not a restaurateur, right? And then now I'm running it and it's losing money like crazy.
Wow.
Okay? Should I shut it down or should I invest more to see if I can turn it around, right? That's the hardest part about being an entrepreneur. It goes back to the grit question. Yeah. You never know if you're making the right decision, right? The best thing you can do is to say, okay, I'm going to give it 6 months and I'm going to give it $500,000. And if I can't find evidence in that 6 months that this is going to work, then I'm going to shut it down. But then you get to the 6 months and you think, I just need another 6 months and another $500,000. And it's very, when I look at I had a business where we were making lots of money and PayPal froze all of our bank accounts and said, we think that you're like operating a fraudulent business, right? And they weren't willing to take our phone calls. They weren't listening to us. We had no way of, and I remember thinking at the time, it's like, that's it. And then, and this is where it's valuable to have a business partner. My business partner says, no, we should just start calling random phone numbers at PayPal until we find somebody and ask for the vice president of this or that. And believe it or not, we eventually found the person who was willing to listen to us, heard the story, said, oh, it was a misunderstanding, unfroze the accounts. And so things like that happen all the time.
That must have been so scary.
Yeah, it was so scary. Yeah. But things like that happen all the time. And you never know. Are you doing the right thing by trying to go forward, or should you cut your losses and go backwards? I don't know. Yeah. The only thing you can do is make the best decision you can with the information you have at the time. Yeah. Right? Talk to people. Try and get a variety of opinions around you. And then when things go wrong, don't blame yourself.
Yeah.
Just make a new decision at that point.
How do you know which business to venture into? How do you know which business you like?
Right. So the way it works with me is ideas are always coming up. Okay. People are telling me ideas, or I get little ideas myself. I'll see a little video and I'll say, oh, it'd be cool if that was a business, right? Like right now, I'm thinking that it would be cool to have a regular weeknight party for people from my culture, South Asia, right? We'll call it a Bollywood night. There's lots of Bollywood parties, but there's no regular weekly Bollywood party. Yeah. Half the people I talk to say it's a stupid idea, that there's not enough people, or that they'll get drunk and they'll start fights or something like that. And half the people are saying, oh, that'd be kind of cool if you did that, right? So how do I decide what to get into? And this will apply to every kind of business, okay? It's like, I have a little bit of an idea that maybe this could work. So what you do is I have a little bit of an idea. And I know I'll like it. I like the music. I like dancing. So I know that if it's successful, I'll enjoy it.
Yeah.
Right? Now, what's the smallest experiment that I can run to tell me if there's a business there? Right? I can have a Bollywood night at my club.
Yeah.
Right? One night, maybe I make a few $1,000s, I lose a few $1,000s, but that will tell me if people like the idea, right? And then I could try having a little bit bigger night, right? Increase the risk a little bit more. But I shouldn't start promoting instantly new weekly Bollywood night at Club Runway 06 and then spend tens of thousands of dollars on promotion and hiring staff and everything else. Why go to do all that risk when a little experiment could have told me what I needed to know? So with audiobooks, when I first started it, I liked audiobooks.
Okay.
So there was the interest part. I was already listening to them. Somebody said to me, we should mail out audiobooks to people. I said, I used to do this thing where delivering videos to people's houses. It didn't work. It was a dumb idea. This is a dumb idea. He said, there's a company doing this with videos. I said, I've never heard of a company doing this with videos. And he said, it's called Netflix. Netflix had 400,000 subscribers at that point in 2003. And I read this article about Netflix. And, this is interesting. Okay. So what's the small experiment we can do to see if people will buy this product? Yeah. So we created a web page, said, get your CD audiobooks by mail. Yeah. And we put some ads on Google for it. It cost us $200 to create a website and create some ads and to see if anybody would enter their email address to buy it. Right? We got 10 customers the first day. It was a fantastic idea. Wow. So then we spent $200,000 to hire staff, to buy inventory, to create an entire website for the company. So that would be the answer to the question. Is like, you get an inkling of an idea, test it, right? What's the smallest experiment you can do? And that's true for even if you have a business and you're thinking to expand or you're thinking about adding a new product or something, what's the smallest experiment you can do that'll tell you if it's going to be successful?
Okay. Another thing I want to know is, so I had this business idea last year and I didn't know about it, right? Like, I didn't know any brand that was doing it. It just came to my mind and then I shared it with my husband and it's like, oh, that's great. Check to see if there's any persons doing it. And there are like maybe 3 people doing it, and I think it's doing well in their books. Should I still go ahead and pursue the business if there are already people doing it?
I would say, first of all, if you're going to enjoy it, then go ahead. Right? It's not like there's only one convenience store. There's like tens of thousands of them, and they all make money. Yeah. But ideally, you have some way of doing it that's a little bit different from what everybody else is doing, right? That would be the thing. Do you have some secret sauce or something? But again, if you're going to enjoy it, then just go ahead and do it.
Go ahead.
Right? Maybe your marketing is better. Maybe you've got a better set of products, right? Maybe you just have a better name for it.
Right? I think my name definitely is the best of all the ones that I've seen. So what are the 3 things that are the most important to you, like your 3 most top priorities in life?
Okay. So my personal health. Okay. So mental health, physical health. Then my family. Yeah. Okay. And primarily my younger children, but all of my children. I've 14 and 15-year-old teenage boys, along with the 29-year-old daughter, and of course my wife. And those 2 are up here, right? Everything else falls far below. But I would say number 3 is my friends. And I see a lot of people, I've passed a lot of people in my almost 60 years of life who think that their career is more important than their social life. Yeah. And that leads to a really unhappy person. All of those people are unhappy later in life. I've been beside a 50-year-old man sobbing and crying, who was a multimillionaire, crying, hearing me talk about my friends, saying, I don't have any friends, right? I betrayed them, or I ran away from them, or I didn't trust them. And now here I am, I have all this money and I have no friends. So I tell you, if you have a lot of money and no friends, you're miserable. But if you have a lot of friends and no money, you're happy. So what's more important? right? So I would say, yeah. So the having an active social life
Yeah.
is, and I think there was a study at Harvard University actually over like 100-year, no, sorry, 70-year period. They followed all these kids from Harvard from the time they were 20 years old till they died, to say what was the thing that affected their life happiness the most, and it was always their social networks. Right? It's that the people who maintained the most external connections for the longest period of time were the happiest. So, yeah, so friends. And then I spend a little bit of time looking at spreadsheets and trying to make money.
You think that there's an element of luck factor that comes to place when you're like running a business? Do you get lucky? And because it's not everybody who's going to build or sell a company for 10 million, and they've been grinding for years. And I'm sure, I don't know, but I just think that there'll be cases of, people where it's like they were working and even up until they died, nothing, so is luck a huge factor that comes
I
to
would say
play?
it's all luck.
Yeah.
Right? It's all luck. Luck is a massive factor. But everybody gets lucky and everybody gets unlucky, right? The trick is to try and get lucky on big things and unlucky on little things.
Yeah.
And I heard a great quote from a successful entrepreneur once, and I believe this 100%, is being successful in business is staying alive long enough to get lucky. So you make all the decisions to preserve your cash, to have the right employees, to launch good products, all these little decisions, and one day luck will come. But if you're out of business, if you're out of cash, or you're dead, then the luck's not going to help you.
That makes sense.
Yeah. My luck was that I met a guy who owned the domain audiobooks.com. My company was called Simply Audiobooks, simplyaudiobooks.com. I met the guy at a conference who owned audiobooks.com, and he hated Audible for some other reason. So he didn't want to sell the domain to Audible.
Yeah.
It was too expensive for me. But 5 years later, the Canadian dollar went up, US dollar went down. He wanted to buy a boat and wanted to sell it for less money. And I happened to have enough money. And it was $1 million to buy the domain, right? That was my luck. The company went like this. So.
Interesting. So is it possible for a business to be successful without being on the internet? Do you think, in your experience?
Oh boy, that's a tough one. It's possible to be successful with a business that's not an internet business, like a really good restaurant or nightclub, for example, or a consulting business. But you have to be able to leverage the internet.
Okay.
Right? Like for your business, for doing a podcast, right? Like we're talking in person, and this happens to go on the internet, but you're also fully capable of doing a Zoom interview with somebody, right?
Yeah.
So you have to be able to use the tools. But I think there's lots of non-internet businesses that can be successful.
So if, because I feel like there are a lot of people who don't know what their passion is. Or maybe I feel like everybody actually knows. But you know how life can be, where it's like, because of the things that you had to go through, it gets buried like deep down, so you don't know what it is anymore. So in a case where somebody, so it's two questions now. In a case where somebody doesn't know what their passion is, right? Do you have any idea on how to find it? That's the first question. And then the second question is, say I don't know what my passion is, I just have cash and I want to buy a business. What business would you advise me to buy?
Well, those are two very tightly connected questions, right? I would say that if you don't know what your passion is, keep doing little things, right? And if it's not your passion, you'll lose interest in it very quickly, right? So until you find something that keeps your interest past the first wall that you hit. Another way of doing this, I think would be interesting, is just ask your friends, right?
What do you think I'm good at, right?
Yeah, exactly. What do you think I'm good at? What do you think my passion is, right? You'll get some really interesting ideas. There's also a really scary version of that exercise you can do, which is to ask somebody, if there's one thing you thought I should change about myself, what would that be?
Oh my God.
That's a scary question to ask. Ask somebody you trust and who you think has your best interest out for you.
Okay.
Ask a dozen people. If you have a dozen people like that, ask them. You'll learn some really interesting things. So, yeah.
Okay. So what businesses should I buy? If I just had money, I didn't care about, I didn't have to love it. I just want something where it's like, will give me more money. and I can just hire somebody to just manage it for me.
There's no business like that.
No?
No, no. People, there's a lot of people trying to solve that particular problem.
Yeah.
And unless you get operationally involved, you will never be able to make money in that business.
Wow.
Right? And what I've seen is people who buy, say, franchises. Right? That's a common way of doing something like you buy a pita shop or a Booster Juice or something like that. If you don't get personally involved in that business, you will never make money. That all the money is made in the margins and the corners and the edges of the business. You know, my dad, when he owned apartment buildings in Fredericton, that a lot of his profit came from the people who used the cleaning machines, the washers and dryers, in the basement of the machine. They'd put in a quarter, get their laundry done, and he made more profit on that than he did on renting out the units. If he wasn't directly involved in the business, then whoever was managing that business would be taking all that money, right?
Yeah.
You've got to be involved in every business. Everybody's out there, not trying to cheat you, but everybody has their own interest, right? They're not trying to make money for you,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I think you've got to be personally involved, which is, again, why it's got to be something that shows some interest for you. Like I'm seeing now, I was never that involved in my restaurants. Now I'm very, very involved. And I'm finding all of these little nooks and crannies where I can be more successful.
Yeah.
Right? You have to get involved. So go find something that you like.
Interesting. We've had such an insightful conversation, and this just reminds me of the reason why I like keep doing stuff like this. Thank you so much for coming. I'm definitely going to try out both restaurants when I'm in town, or I'll just maybe plan and then go on some day, and then
You come for our brunch.
Yeah.
Right? You and your husband should come down for our if you like Latin music at all, we have a Latin brunch on Sunday.
I think he loves that Latin music.
And we have a throwback 80s music on Saturdays. But come for the Latin brunch.
Yeah.
Let me know when you're coming. I'll
Yeah.
set you up. And you'll have a fantastic time.
I definitely can, because I love food so much. Food and like connecting with people are like my two favorite things in the world. So yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to it. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
And hopefully in like 5 years, or maybe before then, but then after 5 years, we'll have to meet again to talk about or see like where the restaurant is at. But I'm crossing my fingers and hoping that is one of those ones that will last forever. Thank you so much, Sanjay, for coming on the show.
Thank you. I really enjoyed this.
Yeah, that's going to be all, guys. Bye.